Hey, everybody, Kevin here with Pursuing Pixels, and welcome back to another edition of Save It for the Cast. And as per usual, I'm going to kick the ball over to this week. It's just going to be Randall and I once again. This is from our very, very last session that we did before all of our traveling and whatnot. I think we've actually released some of our proper episodes that we've recorded since everyone's, back in their home bases and whatnot. I'm back in Michigan. Randall's back in Seattle. John's been in Chicago the whole time here. But yeah, this is from one of the kind of mega sessions that Randall and I did. We ended up talking for like 3 or 4 hours. We recorded a couple of episodes, proper episodes, and then also just talked a bunch of, travel plans and whatnot beforehand. We dig into some Demon Throttle. My Demon Throttle saga continues. We've all played the game now at this point. It's a game that I definitely intend on talking about in the future on the podcast, like the actual game itself. But Randall and I kind of dig into my never-ending quest to track down a physical copy of that game. And then the wonderful folks over at Doinksoft and Special Reserve Games, who made and published the physical copy of the game, were kind enough to send one my way. So I'll kind of get into the details of that and whatnot. And we get into all sorts of video game nonsense and non-video game nonsense. A lot of our old Michigan stomping grounds as far as our retro game collecting. We kind of dip our toes into those waters as well. But also, as per usual, I got to talk about a few of the things that I've been playing lately. And again, like I said, we're probably going to save the Demon Throttle for a future episode. And that's, once again, kind of the problem I'm having with this intro here, where I'm like, man, a lot of the stuff that I want to talk about or that I've been playing, I've either kind of already talked the guys' ears off about either in the Discord or before some of the episodes that we've recorded since we've been back in town and whatnot. So I'm like, those will probably end up making it onto other episodes or intros or whatever for Save It for the Cast, or in like the later chunks of the Save It for the Cast or whatever. But at this point, I'm just rambling about nothing. So why don't I dive into a couple of the demos that I checked out recently? I've been doing a bunch of streaming lately, mostly just kind of testing out my setup. I think I've mentioned this a few times now, but I mean, I've just been having all sorts of computer issues. Once again, today, our power went out again last night. This is like the 4th or 5th time since I've been back home in Michigan for like not even 6 months now that the power's gone out. And I mean, I don't want to complain. We've been able to go to my brother's house on the occasions that the power was out for a little bit longer. Like, definitely have a pretty good situation, all things considered. But still, and it wasn't like totally freezing, especially this time. But still, it was like, okay, I got to get out of the house today and run around and whatnot. So, it hasn't been the best setup. So because I've had all these like ups and downs and trials and tribulations with just my computer in general and the streaming and whatnot, I've just been kind of doing these like test run streams before bed, and I kind of want to do them a little more regularly, like these before bedtime kind of in my head. I'm like, I'm burning through the backlog before bedtime. I got to always think of my alliteration and everything. But I've been doing some demo streams, and like I said, there's a few other games that I'll probably end up mentioning that I've really, really loved that will come up on future episodes of the podcast. But a couple that I know I haven't talked about quite yet are this game called, the first one I'll mention is called The Ballad of Bonky, and I checked this one out at the very end of a stream the other night, and I had only played a tiny bit of this demo back when our pal Paradigm over from the Indie Game Collective, he and I would do these tag team demo streams. Actually, we would each pick like 4 or 5 demos for upcoming indie games, and we'd each kind of take turns. I think I've even mentioned this on the podcast before. We'd either take turns. I think we would even just like, he'd play his handful of demos and then I'd play mine, and we just kind of talk about indie games and talk about them while we played and whatnot. It was a ton of fun, but I played a little bit of this Ballad of Bonky demo, and we had some technical issues. Like, for whatever reason, I'm always playing on my crummy little laptop, and it was just like really putting the stream through the paces. So I was like, okay, the frame rate's dropping like crazy. Let's not push it. So let's jump over to another game. But I kind of, ever since then, I was like, oh, this seems really cool. And like, it was still on my wish list. And, playing the little chunk I played, I was like, okay, I definitely still am into this game. I don't really need to play more of the demo because I am somebody who tends to, like, if I play the demo, I just never get around to playing the actual game a lot of times. But anyways, I ended up just deciding, I was like, okay, I played a couple other things. I had a few more minutes left. And I was like, you know what? I still have this sitting on my computer. Let me fire up that Ballad of Bonky demo. And it's a really amazing, like, the art style is what catches your eye, or at least caught my eye initially. It's got this really awesome claymation art style, and it's just like full blown like Saturday morning cartoon vibes, again with like this like just incredible like Wallace and Gromit style, maybe not quite that detailed, but still really detailed and like really smooth, buttery. Like, it a lot of times games that lean into like kind of more traditional or non-traditional, like hand drawn or handcrafted animation stuff, and then tacking that onto gameplay, and that's something I've talked about on the podcast a number of times, like just like games like Prince of Persia is the one that always comes to mind, or Flashback, or Another World, or something like that. Those games that have like really cool animation, but then when you're playing them, you're like, oh man, you got to time that jump perfectly. Whereas like Ballad of Bonky, this is like a really snappy top-down bullet hell light, but kind of bullet hell-ish, where you're like dodging projectiles and enemies, and then it kind of works like almost like pinball style. I've talked about a small little indie game called Siege of Osaka before, or a bigger indie game called Creature in the Well, and that's sort of what it reminds me of a little bit. You're like running around, and you actually can play this game 2-player co-op as well, which it seems like it would be an absolute dream to play this 2-player co-op. But even playing just single player, like the energy, the mood, even like the story, there's like all these aliens and cryptids, and it's just like right up my alley in so many ways. The sense of humor is really, really great, which doesn't often, I should say, resonate with me in video games, or really not just video games, reading, whatever it might be. Like humor, it's tough to get right, especially when you don't know the pace people are going to be playing the game at and whatever. But I really just was blown away with the demo. Even like the closing credits, it's got this like kind of trippy visual with the developer, like an actual like video of the person going like, you want to buy this game, like kind of like hypnotizing you. It just had such a crazy bonkers energy and personality that I'm like, okay, this game is just so up my alley. And then another demo that I checked out actually at the end of a different stream, I ended up playing a ton of some other games that I like played quite a bit longer than I anticipated, playing some other games. And actually the developer of this game called Rhythm Quest, they had worked on the soundtrack of a game that I was playing right before that. The game was called Shovel Fall. That's a game that I'll be mentioning on a future episode of the podcast for sure. Most likely on a Save It for the Cast episode. But anyways, I ended up jumping over. I was loving the music so much in Shovelfall that I was like, you know what? I played a little bit of this Rhythm Quest demo. Actually, you know what? Funnily enough, I think I did that with one of those tag team demo streams with Paradigm as well. I'm not 100% positive about that because I know I had a little video clip saved on my computer, but it had no commentary. It was just like gameplay. I was like, you know what? I don't think I ever streamed this, and I only played a little bit of that as well. So I ended up going back to it, and it's kind of like an auto runner 2-button arcade game, rhythm game, but it's like a precision platformer, but it's very much in the vein of like Bit Trip Runner or whatever. But unlike Bit Trip Runner, which I know I've criticized that game endlessly on the podcast when it comes up about how like they, for whatever reason, at least maybe I didn't have the calibration set up right with the audio and visuals on my TV or whatever, but when I would play those games, it felt like the like music, like when you would, it wasn't synced up to like when you would press the button. It was like, okay, so if you were running as Commander Video and you're jumping over a gap, the actual like note of the music or whatever, the beat of the music would actually be when Commander Video was directly over that gap. So that's like kind of how they like dialed in the levels with the music. And to me, that was a little bit off because you always had to push the button a little bit before you would instinctively hear it in the song, the note or whatever. Whereas Rhythm Quest does the exact opposite. And it's, again, maybe it's just because I'm playing on my computer and everything's calibrated a little bit differently or more perfectly or whatever, more precisely. But whatever the case, it was just, I just thought it was so expertly designed in the sense that, again, it's just a 2-button game. You either jump or attack, and then there's either like gaps or enemies, and sometimes they'll be like, you kind of learn like, okay, this kind of wood block enemy I have to attack twice. So I like the first time I attack it, I just push it back to the next like syncopated beat in the song or whatever. And it just does such a good job of visually. It was a little bit tough, I will say, while I was streaming and kind of talking, like towards the end, I was like definitely just being silent for most of a level and just going, oh shit. But you really get down, like even having never heard these songs before, you get a feel for like when the syncopated, like when the melody is going to kind of jump the beat a little early, and based on not only just the feel of the song, but also just kind of seeing where the enemies are placed on the screen. And then when you do make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. It kind of just pulls you back and you lose 5 of the coins that you collect throughout the stage, which for the most part, if you beat the stage, you're probably going to collect all the coins. You might miss 1 or 2 if you just totally mistime a jump or something. Or I guess maybe you could just not jump when there are coins that you don't necessarily have to jump over a gap. I can't remember, but for the most part, you're collecting them all. But every time you die, you go back to the previous checkpoint, which are pretty generous. But at the same time, you lose 5 coins. So, because at first I was like, there's no way I beat these levels without getting all the coins. But I was like, oh, that's how I lost some. And again, by the end of the demo, it doesn't have a full 3 worlds, but it has a good chunk of stages. And it just feels so great. By the I think they just have 2 or 3 stages from the third world that are definitely much more challenging than the first 2. And it just got such a great pixel art style, kind of simplistic in some ways, but just has a bunch of like parallax layers, and the colors are just really great. And the way the visuals like kind of pick up pace with how fast you run, even though everything, like for the most part, again, you're not controlling how fast you're running. You're just pressing jump or attack, and sometimes pressing attack in the air or holding down the jump button when you land on top of these wings and then releasing it at the right time. So it really does kind of juggle how you use those 2 mechanics. So yeah, those were kind of the 2 standout demos to me, apart from the stuff that I mentioned, like I said, that it's going to come up on future episodes of the podcast. But I think I'll probably leave it there for the chit chat for the intro, or for the intro rambling, I guess I should say, and kick it over to the chit chat. The only other game I've really been playing is some Wonder Boy, Asha, and Monster World, which is a sort of, or pretty much is a remake of the Wonder Boy 4 game, which it has another subtitle. It's like, it might be Asha and Monster World. I don't remember, but it's Wonder Boy 4 or Monster World 4. I don't know exactly what it is, but actually the physical version on Switch, which I picked up or I got for the holidays and swapped out my copy. I think I talk about that with Randall and John at some point too, just how I got the European PAL version on accident at first, and now I got the North American NTSC version, and all is well. And yeah, it even comes with the actual original Genesis version, which originally Monster World 4, or whatever the game is called, Monster Boy 4, never actually came out here in North America before this port. And they actually did, like I think back in the PS3 era, or so, probably about a decade ago, because I remember downloading that, the original, just like the Genesis version with the full English translation. And even that was a big deal. Like, oh, this game finally, is translated into English. So to see it like, oh, all, 2 in 1, I get the original game with the translation, and I get this kind of, modernized cel-shaded remake. It's pretty cool. I've been enjoying it. It's definitely kind of a more casual game. And I've just been kind of enjoying it in that regard. Like, okay, it's kind of nice to just kick back at the end of the night and chip away at this one. So yeah, I'll probably save that for jumping in, because Randall's always a big Sega guy. So I feel like I should save that for when he and I, and a big Monster World fan, Wonder Boy. I feel like that series just has such a messed up, we're getting into that territory with our episode titles as well. But yeah, I've done enough rambling at this point. I'll save the Wonder Boy for a future episode. And yeah, like I said, kick it over to Randall and I for a little more chit chat from right before our recent travel. And until next week, we will catch you then, and take care. Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. And speaking of just random, and since we are for sure still tabling Demon Throttle. So when I first got my copy of Demon Throttle, like the retail version, I think I talked about this on like a Save It for the Cast. So to add to the saga a little bit, I got my copy, and I opened it up, and it didn't have the manual. Like, it was just the game case and the cartridge. So if you bought it, once I looked into it a little more, like if you bought it in retail stores, there's like 3 versions. There's like a collector's edition that you can get from not super rare, special reserve games.
Sounds right.
And then there's like the regular edition, but it still comes with like the manual and some stickers. And then there's the retail edition that you can just get at like Best Buy. And so I had like the Amazon pre-order, which probably would have been the same as the Best Buy. Then it got canceled. So I was like, oh man, I got to get it in stores. And then I went and got it. It was missing the manual. I was super bummed. So like right when I got it, I was like, I like took a picture of the game. I was like, and posted it online. I was like, I can't wait to start up Demon Throttle, but I'm super bummed. I thought I was going to have this manual in it. And I didn't know at the time that it like didn't come with that. I was almost like tagging Doinksoft and Devolver, like letting them know like, hey, I think these got shipped without the manuals, and them like be, just a heads up kind of situation. Yeah. And Doinksoft ended up reaching out like, hey, I'm so sorry. And I was like, no, it's actually my bad. I looked into it a little bit more and saw that it's like, the version I got isn't supposed to come with anything. I thought it was just missing stuff. Now that I know that like I got what I got, I'm totally fine.
Not a manufacturing error, just a version of the game, a SKU of the game.
That just doesn't come with the collector's stuff or whatever. But they ended up, they were like, oh, let us reach out to you or whatever. And they ended up reaching out, got my address, and they sent me like the collector's edition of the game. Oh, and I just got that in the mail yesterday. So it's got like the full like cardboard slipcase, and it's got the manual. It actually has like a different cover, like on the actual like Switch game box.
Nice.
I haven't unwrapped it yet, but it's got like, it says like number 45 out of 9,000. And I was like, holy shit, man.
45?
I was like, yeah, I was like, I feel like kind of a jerk. I posted this like complaining post, like, oh man, I didn't get my manual and my stickers. Oh, this stinks. Let me tag the developer. Like, I did genuinely, like, I was like posting it truly to kind of be like, oh, heads up, there might be a bunch of these out there in stores that are missing stuff. But yeah, I was like, man, they are too kind to just reach out and send that out our way. So
with one
really,
of the,
really cool.
Under 100 SKUs out of 9,000, no less, for a special edition. Like that's very cool. That's awesome.
Well, the thing I know we've talked about on the podcast before too, like how you've picked up quite a few of those like limited run or those kind of exclusive ones, and I've kind of kept my distance from all those. Like, oh, I can just I just can't do it, and especially like not having worked as much in a long time, it's like
very
a little easier to resist those.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I have this with like a nice slipcase, and I know they have a Gato Roboto of this, and I'm like, oh man, what if they make a Gunbrella, which is the next game coming out from Doinksoft? I'm like, I gotta have that whole trilogy then. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to wait too long before Gato Roboto's not available anymore, and which I do like love that game.
Yeah, it's a cool game.
That's part of why I didn't want to miss out on Demon Throttle. I was like, when they announced that second batch, I was like, I gotta buy it. I can't miss out on a Doinksoft game. As much as I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this only physical thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just couldn't miss out on it. I was like, at least they had the kindness to not just be like, hey, we made our batch and it's done. They're like, okay, there's clearly more demand for this. We're gonna make a second wave.
Yeah.
I got respect for that kind of stuff.
It's
like if you're gonna make a limited run, or I guess it doesn't have to be from limited run, but yeah, if you're gonna make a limited batch of stuff, it's cool to be open to running a second pressing or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and that's fine. Like, as long as you're distinguishing the original pressing when you thought that was the only one from follow-up pressings, even people like me who are more collector types, and I've calmed down tremendously on any of that stuff, but still, like, as long as you kind of distinguish the versions, I have zero problem with that at all.
Yeah, I totally agree on that front too, because now, like, because there's been so many games, like with even Panzer Paladin, when I saw that had a physical release, I think through limited run, and it's like now they're like, they sell for like 70, 60, 50, $90 on Amazon. It's like, it's like I should have just got it when it was like 30 or 40 or whatever they go for. But yeah, these, again, they did send it our way, so I didn't buy it, but I think this version of it was $35, so pretty reasonable for considering the other version is $30 that I got at the store. So I'm like definitely in the market of like, if they still have Gato Roboto available, and they do release Gunbrella on that platform, like they're really like the box almost has like a shiny like foil embossed logo design on it too. It's really slick. It's really slick.
Now I'm pulling up the Special Reserve Games. That's geez, look at that. Yeah.
So you got like the standard version through them?
What did I get through them? I think I did. I think it was the standard. It was like the first run of the standard version. I don't even think I've opened it yet, so I'm not even sure what's included.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, because Gato Roboto's sold out on Special Reserve.
Oh, no. That's what I get.
Yep.
But I'll have to just be on the lookout in the future. Because, the packaging is it's really, really well done.
Yep.
I was really nervous, like, opening, like, those cardboard, like, slipcase type boxes. Like, it's not just a sleeve. It's, like, an actually, like, you open the box from either the top or bottom.
Yeah.
Like, you got to kind of, like, get your thumb in there and, like, pry it open. I'm like, oh, I'm going to bend it. Like, oh, shoot. Like, you just try to do it so temperamentally. Like, oh, do this one time, never open it again.
I know. I wince every time I have to open any of, like, those cardboard flaps because I'm like, oh, my big stupid thumb is going to make a big, like, creasy imprint on this, and I don't know.
Yep.
And I try to use both of my thumbs to, like, let's equal the pressure on both sides so we open, and then it just, like, there's kind of exactly what I was doing. But I guess, what am I supposed to do? I don't know.
Yep. That's it. We are the same person when it comes to that for sure. Because I was definitely just like, how can I just try the bottom, the top? The bottom almost felt like there was like a little like thumb notch at first, like, but it was actually more of a cutaway to show the like limited number, like number 45 or whatever.
Sweet.
So I was like, I kept trying to like get it. I was like, no, but I don't want to rip that area for sure. If I rip it, like at least if I rip it, it'll just be on the top or something, like away from the design.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I got it open pretty cleanly eventually. I was able to pry like each side individually slowly. It's got kind of like a softer, like almost like matte finish to the box, like a soft, like plush feel to it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the pictures too.
It's slick. The stickers are really cool too. They actually, funnily enough, since we're going to talk about Grindstone tonight, they kind of almost look like they could be Grindstone characters or like enemies or something. I don't know if it shows the stickers on there, but just the way they're that totally different art style from the game, which is cool.
That's funny. Oh yeah, that's sick. That's really cool that they did that.
Yeah, I'm really pumped. I'm gonna have to like give John my copy of my original copy that I bought at Best Buy or something.
Hey, that's sweet. Then we'd all have
round out the trio.
Copy. Yeah,
that'd be cool. Because at first I was like, what am I gonna do with this other copy? Because I feel like guilty that they sent me a free one. Like I can't just hold on to 2 copies of the game, especially since it's a limited physical. But in my brain, I'm like, it's a limited physical. Like, there's only a limited number of these, and they sent me an extra one, so I'm like, I gotta get this one into some good hands.
That John would be the right call in that case. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and he would appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun one and a good co-op game. I think Lauren would actually even appreciate just watching him play the ridiculousness of it.
Oh yeah, that's so cool.
But yeah, back to the Michigan trip. I'm pretty much down for whatever. Obviously, I don't have the best setup for like. I wish I could just be like, oh, come over to my place and let's hang out and order some food and game and whatever. Which I guess we could do it. But our house is like such a disaster right now. Like the kitchen's being remodeled. Like it's kind of a shit show at my parents' house right now.
I understand. I totally
so we might be
understand.
better off trying to like find like if there's like a cool like arcade bar or something like that, or somewhere where we can like or even like go to Gibraltar or something.
I would love.
I don't know,
to
do something like along those lines where we can like hang out.
Obviously, you know I'm not kidding. I'm a sicko.
I'm not either. Yeah.
Yeah, I will go to Gibraltar without question, even on like a Tuesday. I actually even better if it was.
Yeah.
Although then like some of the vendors probably wouldn't be there if they're even open on those days. But
yeah, I forget. I know they like used to, I think, only be weekends, or maybe that was just like when they had the big like, oh, Sunday's like the big day. Because I remember it being a thing we would occasionally do after like church.
Yeah.
Like, when we were younger.
Yeah.
Like, let's go to Gibraltar like once every few years.
Yeah.
Do it. But yeah, I'd be very up for doing some hunting or obviously I want to see like Tina and Fiona too, if we can make that happen.
Absolutely.
But, I should be pretty much wide open for those 2 weeks. So pretty flexible with whatever your guys' schedule ends up looking like.
That would be awesome, and I appreciate that because I just like I've been so bad about like reserving time with. I know I need to do that too with like family and stuff. I just like, and now it's just we're days away. I gotta like figure this stuff out.
I was just thinking, I was like, because I remember like a few days ago, I was like, or whenever we were talking about it in the Discord, I was like, I'll shoot you a text, and then I was like, I'll just talk to him when we record the podcast,
yeah.
And then I was like, oh, it's already the 26th. Like, man, it's like almost the end of the month. Jeez. Because I keep thinking like I'm going to try to go to Chicago like right after you take off while Glenn's in town in Chicago and to get the rest of my stuff and whatever. And just, just make a trip to Chicago after you head back to Seattle.
Yeah.
Just to hang out and see John and I see everybody.
Absolutely.
Basically. But I'm just like, man, that feels so far off. And now it's like, man, it's like 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away.
I know.
So I gotta get ready to go. My car is like, oh my God, duct taped together. It's falling apart, man. The bumper, seen better days, but I'm like, it's running. So
yeah,
again, knock on wood.
Hey, it's running. If it can get us to Gibraltar, depending on if Tina's mom's letting us borrow an SUV that she's got for the time period, but I don't know if Tina might need that during whatever time it might be. I'm not sure. Play all that out, but we'll see. Yeah,
and I might be able to use in worst case scenario. My mom, like every day when I go to drive my car, like my parents are like, are you sure that thing's okay? You use my car, it's fine, because my mom works from home now. But so like for the most part, she doesn't need, or if she needed it, she could use mine. It's not like. But I'm like, hey, again, I hate that they say it every time and ask, are you sure it's okay? Because then I'm like, it's fine. But every time I say it's fine, I'm like, I'm jinxing it. Quit asking me, guys. Like, I'm gonna go out there and it's not gonna start.
Yep.
Like the other day, like it started like beeping. It made this like loud beep where I was like this like ding ding, but it just my coolant was low. So I had to just top that off. But I was just like, I was like, anything that goes wrong now, because I'm always like, it's fine.
Yeah,
just panicking.
I know that feeling all too well. In driving in Michigan, no less, I know that feeling all too well. Driving very dangerous vehicles until they literally just don't work on the road anymore. I've done that a couple of times, actually. Yeah,
you just can't let it go. Like when you're like, hey, I've already got it's paid off. I don't have a car payment right now. Like why would I add that to my life if it's still getting the job done?
And I was hella poor, so it was like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Permanently closed.
Gibraltar? What?
At least that's what Google Maps is saying.
Oh my God. That's shocking.
I hope that's not true, but that
I guess with COVID and stuff, I could kind of see that actually.
Darn.
If they were hanging on by a thread before, or maybe Taylor Trade Town, although obviously they could have a similar fate.
That's my jam, is that Taylor Trade Town. That was late era, still in Michigan. I went there all the time.
Yeah. I think I only went there with you, I think just one time, I want to say.
Wow.
Maybe one other time, but I only have one specific man, and I don't remember getting much. I remember I don't know, I just wasn't in the market for a ton of stuff, but I remember them having quite a few just cool random. Those are the more fun finds. It's cool to find a cool game anywhere, or get it online on eBay. I ordered some cool games and still had fun doing it that way, but it's so much more fun to just kind of find it in the wild.
Not even close to the same as finding it in the wild. It's a whole separate experience.
Yeah.
Let's see if
Taylor
at a retro
Town, convention.
Because Gibraltar's and at a convention works too. But even like a Taylor or Gibraltar, the true grimy flea market experience was even more a step in I don't know, the serendipity of it all, and just I don't know.
It almost had a garage sale sort of feel. I found this I just popped in at this person's house and they happen to have all these random Super Nintendo games. Or even when we went to that guy's trailer, he had every game could want pretty much.
I'm like, darn, I
for
wish
NES
I had
especially
more money at this time in my life than I did.
I know, man. I spent so much money at that.
Yeah, you did the right thing.
But I rounded out my NES collection pretty much, with every good game that I didn't have, or not every, but a good chunk of all the good games that I didn't already own.
You did. Okay, so Taylor Trade Town Center is still open, and they are open from 10 a.m. to at least 6 p.m. on Thursday through Sunday, and it looks like Friday, Saturday they're open till 8. So there's
okay, nice.
There's
got
opportunities.
A good window there.
Yeah, Thursday through Sunday. So okay,
let's tentatively try to aim for that. I guess I would be very down for that.
Me too.
And I'll try to poke around. I'll try to see if that hobbies. What area are you going to be in?
My father-in-law and brother-in-law booked us an Airbnb for the stay too, nice. And it's kind of in that greater Waterfordish area. It's not tremendously far because it's closer to where my dad and his family are generally in that region too, for the most part. And then Tina's parents and some of those folks are kind of in the Lapeer area, and then a little bit into the Thumb, and then my mom and my sister and folks are just a little bit more towards Detroit area, Warren, Detroit area. So kind of triangulates a lot lot of stuff with that location. So that should work out pretty well too.
Yeah, that was because I've actually driven around a few. I'll be over by Opdyke and whatnot, and I'm over by Randall's old place, man.
Yeah,
the old apartment.
Oh yeah,
many a strikers match.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
Those I remember it was Miyu, Milton, and AK would just go hard on strikers.
Yeah, match after match.
And I think it was it me and you versus AK and Milton? Was it me and Milton?
I ended up with AK on my team most of the time, which I was happy for the privilege.
He was a beast. He was a beast.
He was incredible at that game.
Yeah, that and Smash Brothers. Like I remember I went over his house one random time and he had like some friends over and like he's like, "Oh, I want to play some Smash." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, play some video games, man." That was actually the moment where I was like, "I hate Smash, dude." Like everybody is so good at this game and I'm so bad.
I got my ass beat in Smash like the couple of times I played some of the more recent ones with like friends over here. Like, oh yeah, I guess I've been kind of trash at this since Melee. I've been out of practice. I can tell.
Yeah, I really was only ever good at the 64 one.
Me too.
And good in like, I don't even know how good I was. We were just younger, I guess, and like just played with like neighborhood friends mostly. But I mostly remember about that game, honestly, just playing like the shit out of Break the Targets, like especially with Pikachu, like you could do that like lightning dash, and it was like, oh man, you can like shave off some time.
Yeah.
Or did they have different challenges for every character? Now that I think about it, I can't remember how they had that set up actually.
There's the,
or if you could just do it with every character.
I think you could do it with every character.
And like
I was always
like a
NES
medal
guy,
or something.
then you could really control the lightning thing that way too. And I like the built-in baseball bat. It was always very good.
And just being able to save yourself with that launch as well. Like that was so satisfying. Like a little more satisfying than a typical just like up B, grab the ledge. Like, oh, let me blast myself with like a last fucking chance.
Yes.
Just, I don't know. Felt very satisfying.
It did.
Yeah,
I played
NES
skill.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means that I often put myself at a disadvantage, but it was still fun.
Yeah, it's just more fun. More fun that way. But yeah, that might have been my problem. I should have just played like some brute character that I can button mash with.
Now I need to, I'm going to put this in a new list. Taylortown Trade Center. That's where I'm going. New list.
Yeah. Heck yeah. And like I said, I'll do a little dig in to see if that hobby toy shop or whatever still has games.
I'll go to any of those sort of places, or honestly, I'll go to any video game store too. There's always interesting stuff, and obviously there's still
you never
games
know what you're
like,
gonna find.
Why don't I have these Mario Tennis games or Mario Advance?
Never know what you're gonna find, man.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know what it's gonna cost these days, but regardless, you never know what you're gonna find.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's a coin toss though. You never know. You know? Some people don't know what they have.
Yeah, sometimes the folks that run those places are just a little lackadaisical with updating their prices, and that can kind of work out okay.
Yeah, or they're just like, that's not like their sole business. Yeah. Like they're not just in it to make money on getting max dollar for video games. They're just like, hey, what can we flip for a little extra profit?
Yeah.
So they're just happy to, hey, we bought this for whatever in a huge lot of video games, and we're making $10 a game. We don't really care or whatever.
Yep.
So.
Absolutely.
But, oh, man.
Well, I want to do that. That rules.
Yeah, I definitely want to get some, because he texted me the other day. I was busy, and he was like, "Hey, me and my brother are on playing Strikers online."
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I can't play right now, but I was like, I'm glad you texted me, because like I have not got my money's worth out of that game, so I would be happy to play some.
I need to get back to that game too. I just like my Switch play had like fallen off a cliff for a while there, so I
you were on that Xbox grind, baby,
for like a year. So
I know the feeling, like. That's been like, I went Switch heavy when I first moved back. Now I'm kind of back on playing on my PC again a little bit. Playing some of the little indie stuff. But I was definitely kind of like, oh, I'm just playing Switch for now. Or just playing my 3DS even when I first moved back.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that either.
Kind of forgot I started some of those games, Link Between Worlds. And, man, fuck. I was really liking that. I totally forgot that I started that game.
It happens.
Yeah, especially with me. Typical.
It happens.
But you want to knock out some claps here?
Oh, good call.